it's a bit intimidating in the beginning, but what I found is everybody wants to be on a podcast.
People are very intrigued by it.
Yeah.
And it's very exciting because everyone wants to have their voices heard.
Yes.
In some capacity, but no one wants to put in the work.
Yes.
To create their own channel for their own voices.
100%. That's really what separates the 90, because everyone really can do a podcast.
Right.
Not everyone should do a podcast, but everyone can do a podcast. And, so when you finally say, yeah, why not? Let's do it. What we have to say can be of some value to someone, so then why not pursue it? I just noticed that the universe kind of conspired in a way. I had no problem finding at least 5 guests.
Sure.
Influencers, micro-influencers. Micro-influencers are people who have less than, 100,000 followers,
right,
or 1 million followers. I don't know. And some of these guys are top of their fields. Either in spirituality, meditation. One of them is an ADHD coach. Another one is a life coach. And ADHD has been...
It's a huge topic.
Today, it wasn't in the past, and it should have been. And actually, the science... From what because I was diagnosed with ADHD growing up.
How old were you?
I was 7 or 8, too young, I think.
You think it was too young for a proper diagnosis? You think that they could have easily misdiagnosed you?
Well, there is a lot of topics. There's a lot of talk about misdiagnosis, and especially boys getting diagnosed with ADHD at a far higher rate than girls.
Why do you think that is?
Just our temperament. Boys are a bit more rowdy.
Sure.
Sorry if that...
But when you're young...
Yeah, so... but then I also I'm also of the belief that your beliefs create your reality. So if... now they've done studies that people with ADHD, or also called neurodivergent, have a different brain structure than the neurotypical.
Would that be the
types.
Same for people who are diagnosed with autism or Asperger's, or is that a different type of neurological structural difference?
I'm glad you said that.
Okay.
I'm glad you mentioned Asperger's.
I asked.
Because so there's 2 types of brains, and please someone correct me if I'm wrong, but
comment, subscribe.
Like, comment, yeah, absolutely. The people that I've spoken to on the subject, so neurodivergent is ADHD. So ADHD is a sort of umbrella. So if you have bipolar, manic depression, autism, Asperger's, which is just a form of autism,
right.
all of those
spectrum.
Go under the umbrella of ADHD. Okay. So those mental people with ADHD, neurodivergent types are at a statistically higher rate have these mental illnesses, as they're called today. I think it's...
Isn't it funny how they're labeled as mental illnesses? But imagine if the human consciousness and brain...
Well, I don't think they're
just
mental...
a separate... Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm arguing for.
That's why
it's not actually as much of an illness as something that you inherit as a very young child genetically, and you have to figure out what sort of skills you need to acquire in order to live with that consciousness.
So to add on to that point, because that's I would explain it differently. Along those lines.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this. I know the definitions of each disorder or quote unquote mental illness. I don't know, like what I'm saying right now is pure speculation.
So let me
spew it.
Exactly. I wouldn't call them like bipolar, ADHD, manic depression. Now, the symptoms can be very severe and have obviously impacted
a lot of
lives, millions of lives. I would call them mismanaged traits.
Interesting. Okay. I like that.
Because I don't think something you're born with. I mean, obviously there are certain cancers which obviously kill children, which are genetic based.
Sure.
Those are illnesses.
Sure.
But if your homeostasis, your life functionings aren't
your level, your equilibrium.
Yeah, like physiologically, like you can your blood work is fine.
On paper, everything's good.
Yeah, why is this an illness? It's I personally consider it a trait, and so going back to the science of ADHD and other neurological traits from the 1990s, which, considering the research today and the scientific and the instrumentation and everything, going as recent as 30 years ago in the 90s,
right?
And you compare it today, the stuff that they were coming out with in the 90s, I considered like that was Wild West, borderline quackery.
Sure. What are examples of that?
Just the over prescribing of medication, of very aggressive medications.
Hooking people on stimulants.
Opioids. So personally, I was put on Ritalin at the time when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
Now Ritalin is, I'm a chemist I studied chemistry in college, my bachelor's in chemistry, so I know molecules. And
structures.
The structure of Ritalin and the structure of cocaine and methamphetamine are very similar. So we're giving children
doses,
heavy doses, chronic doses over years. I was given Ritalin every day, every school day at least, from 3rd grade to 12th grade. And then when I went to college, I stopped taking it because I was no longer under my parents' influence. Did you
or any of your family members or friends pick up or realize a difference in your personality or behavior once you're prescribed that were actually not so positive?
Night and day.
Well,
there was actually...
Like what?
So for example, Ritalin was my personality from 3rd grade to high school.
What was
who
that
like?
Who I
was.
Right, that's your
morning,
resting consciousness, your resting homeostasis, instead of me, who in high school, this is crazy, I honestly haven't thought about this in forever. My dad would notice that I would be exhausted when I would come home, and I would always fall asleep in my 9th period classes. And you know what my dad said? He's like, take a half of a caffeine pill. So my resting consciousness in high school was caffeine.
Believe it or not, that's a lot. That's 90. I don't want to say 90%, but that's a large majority of the population because everyone's caffeine.
Oh right, whether it's via an espresso, and then I stopped taking the pills in high school and I migrated to drinking espresso. So when I wake up in the morning, even today, my resting consciousness for the day is usually at least one shot of espresso. I'm trying not to keep nicotine in the mixture, but nicotine is definitely in the mixture, whether it's for now. Via a vape, which I'm not proud to say, but what are you going to do? We all have our vices. And, for a lot of my friends growing up like yourself, it was Ritalin or Adderall or Vyvanse. That was their resting consciousness level throughout middle school, most of college. So what were the adverse effects?
So I'll tell you it in a story.
Please.
When I was in college, I would take my Ritalin as needed, or it was Adderall at that point. Like we had switched it over to Adderall. Which really, financed all of my shenanigans because I would just sell them.
I've been there too.
So
selling from friends who were just giving them to me because they thought I wanted them for studying, but
that's hilarious.
I was actually flipping them.
Yeah, I was prescribed and then
making 100% profit.
Oh my god.
And then some.
I would turn $25 a bottle into. I'm not even gonna say.
Whatever. We'll get into our drug dealing days another time.
Yeah.
Because I've sold weed, I sold Xanax.
Really?
Sold Adderall.
I don't have the. I wish I could, but I can't hound people.
I don't do it anymore.
Yeah. No. I mean, I would. I sell.
When I say sold, it was like to my select group of friends.
Yeah, exactly.
My very close circle. It was never to strangers.
Friends and family. Yeah.
It wasn't a business really.
No one would come
side
knock on my door.
side cash.
Exactly.
We had Adrian for that.
Yeah.
In college.
We all have that one friend. JT, you know who you are.
Crazy friend.
He's definitely going to listen to this podcast too.
Subject to.
So yeah, my friends, my close group of friends in college, had they would call it Code Red, when I would just tell them, because I was a raging dick. I was a raging asshole with a short temper.
Right.
And I would just verbally
because of the Ritalin.
Yeah,
no, I get that.
It was just, and my friends, and because I first of all, through high school, I only had one friend.
Yeah.
I just didn't have friends. I didn't have friends. I wasn't, because my personality was being suppressed.
Sure.
My ability to form connections, which is probably why I was so well read, because I just buried myself in books because I couldn't.
You were like chemically introverted.
Yeah, exactly.
Chemically induced introversion.
Yeah, 100%. And I suffered through not nervous. It was definitely like nerve action, but
tics.
I had like this, which took years for me to overcome.
So my story that you made me think of was elementary school. Had two really close friends. Both I actually still to this day keep in touch with, but we're not, super tight. We all live in the same place. We see each other here and there. I went away to middle school because our school system is a reverse triangle. You have 3 elementaries, 2 middle schools, and 1 high school. So you're coming together like a funnel.
Yes.
And you go into
it's similar with us too. Yeah. I think suburbs.
So I was in suburban school system. So I was in the same elementary school as my 2 friends. Then they both went to the other middle school. So I had 4 years of not really seeing them. Because I made my own friends in this other middle school from the kids from my side of town, or wherever the cutoff was.
Yes.
We get back to high school, and I expected to rekindle all these friendships that I had. They're different people because they've been prescribed, in their case, it was Adderall and Vyvanse for the past 3 years or so, probably since they were in 6th grade. And it's like I was talking to different people. And the twitch that you're speaking about completely makes sense, because I never understood why one of my friends it's the neck. He constantly was going like this. I always noticed. He was always like that. Like this.
Oh, yeah.
And then my roommate Ben, you know who I'm talking about. We have a friend who Ben actually went to college with, who I grew up with, who's constantly going like this. And it now makes sense. It's probably from the Ritalin.
It's 100%. It's 100%.
Hey, sorry, man.
I had restless leg syndrome. That was a thing too. Where I was laying in bed and my legs literally would not stop moving. And these are side effects that obviously took years for them to come forward, and then it also took years for them to go away. I took a huge detox for many years off of this stuff because this is why I kept the prescription going, because it was just a great source of side income.
What kind of tools did you have to inherit once you stopped taking this prescribed drug in order to combat?
My academic life definitely took a massive hit.
Downturn?
Yes.
Okay.
That's because I just removed it, but I didn't have any management skills to it. Right. And then I discovered this ADHD coach about 2 years ago. We worked together, Matt, and he'll be on the podcast. I would love to bring him on the podcast. Really changed my way of thinking about ADHD, knowing about ADHD, managing it. I take Adderall again, but very specific, as needed, task basis, because there are some things having ADHD. I think we should go into what is ADHD.
Let's do it.
So, ADHD is it stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Mm-hmm. I disagree with that name entirely. I think it.
What do you think it should be?
There's actually this is coming from the UK, but there's a strong push to relabel it from ADHD to VAST, Variable Attention Stimulant Trait.
Interesting.
So we don't lack attention. We don't have a deficit in attention. I don't think you can have
which is ADD.
Yeah, no, but it's the ADHD and ADD are the same.
Okay.
They just added the H somewhere along the line to encompass another trait of ADD.
Understood.
So we don't have a lack of attention. We have an issue in regulating where we put our attention.
Okay.
So it's not a deficit in attention. What VAST or VAST stands for is variable attention stimulus. So when our attention, we're very sensitive to stimulus.
Mm-hmm. When something else is piquing your attention,
shiny objects,
you're gonna go, oh, that's like, oh.
Yeah.
I actually had a colleague once who literally would turn about like driving. Oh my god, that's shiny.
Yeah.
Like Dory.
That's a strong symptom of ADD.
Yeah.
And there was a scientist that I read that actually, so going back even further, where we were talking about beliefs. This I forget his name, but I'm sure Matt knows him or knows about him. He determined ADHD to be a response to a sort of chaotic household. I wouldn't call abusive parents, but my parents were definitely not abusive.
Is it a lack of affection, a lack of attention?
Yeah.
Paid to the child?
Yes. Just a chaotic household. So if you have parents who aren't necessarily in love, that causes a lot of turbulence in household.
Or parents who are both working.
So what happens is the child develops a defense response, and because we cannot leave a situation, we can't leave a parent yelling at you.
Not as a child.
No, we can't leave. And actually, I've experienced this with my own father, which is why I believe I actually agree with.
So you're trying to distract yourself instead.
So you zone out
instead of trying.
So it's a habit. It's a pattern, and remember, your personality is set after your first 7 years of life, and that's also when you're most vulnerable and you're most susceptible. So your first 7 years of life, you're in a hypnotic stage. You're just absorbing.
You're getting programmed.
You have to learn how to survive in this environment. Right. Having a verbally abusive father or parent, rather, parent, I learned to just zone out. Yeah. My dad would, but that's again, that's not blaming my father. My dad worked his ass off to support a family by himself, with a stay-at-home mother, and I'm sure he came home with a lot of stress and a lot of shit from work, and he didn't have the
coping
mechanisms or the strategies to deal with that, and that's fair. Right. He put us all through college. He put us all through he put me and my twin brother through our masters, so respect. But needless to say, that had a side effect of, zoning out. And if you spend your first 7 years, how long does it take to make a habit? 2 months, a month?
Not long.
Yeah.
Much shorter than does the break.
7 years of, I just don't want to be here. Or I'm not mentally here, That sets...
Cutting yourself out.
And the science goes even further with neuroplasticity. Have you heard this term?
I have.
And it's a term you didn't hear 5 years ago.
No, not at all. This is very new. It's a new age term.
This is new science and they're finding out that the brain, the neurons and the neural connections in the brain are not set at any point in your life.
So you can always change.
Yeah, it's just as easy for you to learn a language. I mean, this is from 7 onwards, not like your brain is a supercomputer as it is, but it's a hyper supercomputer from 0 to 7.
Sure. And you also have no agency until you're maybe 18.
Yeah.
Like your parents aren't going to let you do what you want. You're not wise enough to make smart decisions 0 to 7.
Yes.
So that's also debatable, but you're forced to absorb everything because you can't physically remove yourself many of the times. You can't get in your car and drive away. You can't get on your bike and drive, because if you even did that, if you walked out of your house at 6, 7 years old and you said I'm leaving the fucking house and I'm walking through the neighborhood, your parents would freak out.
Yeah.
They'd be like, you're not going and doing that alone.
No.
And even if your parents didn't freak out, there's a red flag right there. Your parents are really neglecting you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
at 7 years old, unless I'm walking a block down the street to maybe the candy shop, your parents probably wouldn't let you do anything alone.
And I do want to add on to being diagnosed, because diagnosis is important, but I don't think medication should ever be the first. It's so extreme.
Solution.
This is. Would you give your 7-year-old cocaine?
No, never.
You'd be fucking arrested.
I honestly would probably, if my child was diagnosed with an attention deficit disorder,
which is highly probable considering your father.
I don't. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't think I would. I wouldn't think I would get them on a prescription.
No,
I would try to figure out an alternative solution.
Absolutely, because there are mechanisms and structures and habits that you can be taught to manage these things. So a big part of it is maintaining dopamine levels. So people with ADHD have it's measurable. People.
Sorry, I'm just saying how long we go. We're in beats and not in time. Right, sorry, carry on. ADD.
So the people with ADHD, ADD, any neurodivergent types have a lower baseline of we have less dopamine in our head, in our brain.
Sure.
And that's where the constant attention switching comes from. It's because we need that. We're
craving the next dopamine
the next hit. So that's why people with ADHD. So did you know that?
I've not been diagnosed with this, and I think we've had the discussion where I've asked my therapist, I've asked my primary care physician when I was younger, my pediatrician. I asked him whether or not he thought I had ADHD or ADD. They both said that
you don't know.
They both
that's
said
the thing.
You don't. But
but
I think everyone does on a spectrum, right?
Well, everyone is. Everyone's
a lot of
on a
people
spectrum.
Undiagnosed.
Everything's
on a spectrum.
But let me just say this: you don't know. Have you ever gotten an image of your brain?
No, I have not actually. Sure.
And here are the things.
I would love to.
And here,
hit me up.
And here, and this is what blows my mind, is that they're making these diagnoses. Based on a bunch of questions that you're asking to a 7-year-old.
Right. And how are you going to expect them to give you
giving them
truthful answers?
Yeah. No, not even truthful. Correct. How does a 7-year-old really know how to express what they feel?
It's like the 16 personalities test too, where they, the ENTJ, it's called the Myers-Briggs test.
Yeah, I know.
Any of these tests that are trying to classify you. See, this is what I'm getting at. It depends on where your headspace is on the day you're taking the test.
Absolutely.
Because one day I'm the commander, they call it, and then one day I'm the wizard, and then one day I'm the intellect. But maybe I'm a little bit of all of those, because on certain days my traits are geared more towards one personality, and certain traits are geared towards other, depending on what I have to do during the day, depending on what I've gone through, maybe even that week. You're different every day. You wake up every day a new person. So like these...
I mean, I would say you are a new person, really, and it is dependent, but there are certain...
That's a nice thing to say. Let's be honest, it's very hard to wake up a new person every day when you are working jobs.
Yeah, so you certainly...
You have to do things that are the same as what you did the day before.
Yes.
So,
Well, let me finish.
Yeah, ADD and taking the test. When you're 7, how can you give viable answers?
Yeah, how can you be tested in a how really? I don't even remember the test they gave me for ADD, and it's been something I've just had to. So going back further, where you get a diagnosis from this doctor, and in back then or even today, a doctor's word is God, and it's really just one man who got a degree. We don't even know how well he did in his degree.
And this goes for many things.
Yeah.
If you're wearing the uniform, a lot of people will
have authority.
A lot of people will take your advice as authoritative advice.
Yeah.
And you hope you're going to doctors who are experienced.
Yes, and we didn't have really. We didn't grow up rich, so right. I'm sure
even saying that we had access to doctors, we're privileged, like where we are.
But I really think doctors, fuck up more people than they help. They're great for acute problems, terrible for preventative and long-term management.
Yeah.
I think everything should be handled as holistically as possible. But so. You're dosed with cocaine every day for 12 years.
Oh, it's not even cocaine. That was smoke underwater.
That's hilarious.
Okay.
Excuse me. My track of mind.
I'm sorry. That was distracting of me. The weather doctors have, can give you advice that is evergreen.
So going back to that. I never got a brain imaging. I never got a PET scan. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. 30 years ago, if we had brain imaging devices, probably yes, because MRI was discovered, in the 70s. But psychology and psychotherapy and psychiatry, are medicine or is medical science dealing with the brain. But at no point are you looking at the organ you're treating.
All right. And you think you know everything about the brain, but we only know the tip of the iceberg. Exactly.
And I really mean just the bare tip.
Yes.
And, so the system itself is flawed. And then you have this parent, because what happens with kids, especially children with ADHD, this is very important, they need to be taught coping mechanisms and strategies to increase their baseline dopamine level. So this is why you see me running in the ocean every morning. This is why I work out. It's because you need these certain things. Because if I don't do those things, and the jumping in the ocean is a new thing, but I've been taking cold showers for 5 years. I take a cold shower every morning. I take ice baths regularly, and I immediately know the difference. In my focus is better. My general focus is better. So attention and focus are two different things, but you need both. And no one told me that if I took cold showers growing up, my focus
wasn't in the repertoire.
No one knew about it. It's just take this pill and all your problems will go away.
It was very Eastern thought process.
Yeah. And living in America, exactly. And I think we need to bring more Eastern medicine to the West, because we're it's just this whole take a pill for your problem is clearly damaging. I don't want to say society, but society really. Did you know that America is the sickest nation on earth? We are per capita the sickest nation on earth.
I believe it.
But in so many metrics, look at myself as an example. We have the highest rates of obesity and diabetes. Did you know 50 years ago, this is within our parents' lifetimes, 50 years ago, diabetes was an anomaly.
Interesting.
Like 1 in 100 people would get diabetes 50 years ago. Now, I can knock on these doors.
Someone in the building with diabetes.
5 people in the building. There's probably maybe less than 100 people live here, so... Yeah. The population...
Probably 15 people that live in this building. Max. Maybe that's even... Yeah. And probably 12 people live in this building. And why? Because sugary drinks... It's all related. Diabetes and ADHD, it's all connected.
It's all connected to the diet. And there's still no...
Everything plays a part.
There's no education every on this. Yeah. So managing my diet helped improve my focus and ability. And these were things that...
Eating like shit, you're thinking like shit, you're feeling like shit.
I remember when I was in college, and so I had ADHD. I was also 300, and so this was in high school. I was 330 pounds. I'm like 250 now. I was 230 in Paris, but then coming back to America just blew me up.
Yeah. It's funny how that shit does that. Even me, I'm already a small guy. Yeah. In Paris, I lost like 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
Just from smoking cigarettes and walking everywhere, and also
the food quality is markedly better.
It's crazy
in Europe.
Yeah, and it's not like I was eating super healthy.
And believe it or not, it's even better.
Yeah.
In a lot of the developing nations, I was in fucking Palestine.
Great food there.
I had a strawberry off of
off the vine. Right from the vine.
Right from the vine. It was like it was fucking microscopic.
Yeah,
it looked like a
natural. Size of a raspberry.
It felt like a strawberry monster just face fucked my mouth. Like really, it was just flavor.
So
I
fresh.
Was drooling with it. It was like it tasted like a Starburst. And
now we have strawberries that are the size of golf balls but taste like water.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
And they look pretty.
Yeah, they look pretty. And that's
another thing our nation's so focused on.
And this is why, and these problems are going to get worse, but you know what? America has made an economy
jumbo.
Yeah,
the jumbo economy. Jumbo strawberries.
It's made
jumbo sodas.
It's made an economy.
Jumbo jets.
It's made an economy.
Jumbo RVs.
On not just bigger is better, but it's made an economy on keeping people sick and then just giving them not the cure, but the treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So, growing up, you're saying, oh, you can't sit still, and forget about the fact that public schools have no idea how to raise children, and they don't know how to. So this child who's meant to, be this perfect thing of curiosity and learning, and you learn. You can. I've seen 4-year-olds speak 3 languages.
Mm-hmm.
So with the supercomputer, they can't sit down, talk to and listen to a person talk who clearly hates their job and their life, and is probably a pedophile on some level.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. I don't want to shit talk all teachers that way, but
some
a lot of them are. Actually, when it was funny. I was talking to some of the kids I met, I knew from high school. We went through the system with these people.
Yes.
Elementary school, 2 principals were pedophiles. Known, they caught them. One of my high school, my mid school principal was caught having sexual relations with a 16-year-old boy, and this guy was the biggest homophobe.
Right. And he was the one.
Yeah.
The theater teacher in my school actually just passed away a few days ago. We got an obituary. He died of cancer. The year after I graduated, it was the year after I graduated, the news came out that he was, having sexual relations with female and male students in his little theater group. And he was openly gay, and he was actually a really nice guy. His name was Schroffenegel. That was his last name. So everyone called him Schroff. He was a really good teacher. He was a great theater professor. He put on amazing productions.
Sure he did.
But he was doing some sus shit with the kids behind closed doors.
And that's very common in the education complex.
Sure.
In this country, anyway, because they pay the teachers like shit. There's no vetting process. You can't fire them. There are known pedophiles.
Are tenured. Yeah.
There are known pedophiles in school that were caught and can't be fired. So this conversation has.
Yeah, let's loop it back. What were you saying?
Let's loop it back. Basically, everything about the U.S. is fucked. But we can do better.
Yes,
that's the saving grace.
I think we can. We have smart people in our.
Hopefully,
country.
With us talking about it, people will take action.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole thing is, medication should be an absolute last resort. And because there's no consideration about the long-term effects.
And we're constantly, and I've noticed in Western culture, you're constantly looking on the external for all of your solutions. But very few people in this country look inward.
Oh!
And that's a huge thing.
Very good insight.
We're constantly looking outside of ourselves for validation. Social media, prescription drugs, porn, sex, alcohol. What can we
because we need to feel good always.
And what do we have on the outside of us that we can put into us that will make us feel good ephemerally, like for an hour or 2 hours? And then when you start realizing all of that and you start going within, whether through meditation or whatever your practice is, you begin to wake up and realize that it's kind of all a trick. And I constantly looking outside of yourself for validation and fixes in your life or whatever's bothering you, they're never permanent. They're never lasting.
No.
Because you're just waiting until you get the next one. And then you get the next fix from external validation, and then you get the next one.
I mean, we've all, you and I, we've also dealt with that,
Yeah.
Whether it's
I've been there. I used to be like that.
Yeah.
I used to in college, smoke to numb myself, marijuana, and drink to feel good. Like it was before I meditated. This was early college, before I had any sort of spiritual awakening, or my true, spiritual awakening. But I was just like any other college kid, and I was just like any other one of my friends who were doing that. And while I wasn't maybe doing it at a degree like some people I knew who were abusing things like Xanax, cocaine, you name it, I think I had the epiphany fairly recently about that overarching theory, which I think is true. I think there's validity in that.
Yeah. And there needs to be a stronger. The thing is, doctors. We rely too much on doctors in this country. Doctor.
Yeah.
Like
there are high priests. Yeah. There are soothsayers.
I like seriously.
Be right back, everyone.
A person going to a doctor a lot, is that a healthy person?
So I have a thought on that because I had an uncle who passed away when he was 55. He had stomach cancer. He never went to doctors. He didn't really have any vices. Like, he drank a bit. He was, he knew a lot about wine. He had a wine collection. He wasn't like a sot or an alcoholic or anything. But he refused to go to doctors because he thought like his body was perfect. I think you have to strike the balance. Your annual checkup, get your blood work done.
Oh,
good, for sure.
No,
but you
absolutely.
Can't be. But I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Just everything's on the spectrum. And
I agree.
You can't be someone who's never seen physicians.
Yeah.
And you're probably not benefiting that much from going once a week.
Yeah. In this society, like, there are enough toxins and shit just in the environment.
Look
that
where
you
we live.
Have to.
Look where we live every day.
Yeah.
Every day you're ingesting shit.
That you have to get, a checkup, and you have to get blood work done, just to make sure that the environment isn't affecting your internal. But the over reliance, like me being unable or not willing to sit down and listen to a teacher monotone for 8 hours about uninteresting subjects.
Right. They make you think that there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
When there's not.
This is just, exactly.
I'm the same way. My dad picked up on this about me. My dad's very he's very observant, and he also knows his children because they're his children, and he knows his son because I'm his son. And I remember I would ask him if he thought I had ADD or whatever, and he's like, I don't think you do. I just think you have a very low threshold for people who are not interesting or entertaining. And he's like, let's make a list.
Yeah.
Who are the teachers that you're currently or that you've had in your life that you loved? And let's go through the teachers that you can't even consider sitting through 5 minutes of one of their lectures. And I started seeing a pattern. And the teachers that I love were these passionate, alive, present, conscious, wise human beings, old and young.
And you did better at
and they love their jobs, and I killed it in their classes. Even a math class with a teacher I actually really liked, got a B, which is great for me in math.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at math.
Terrible for Jewish standards, but...
Yeah, I can't do math. But there's plenty of creative Jews out there. They're out there.
No, it's exactly the same with me.
I needed, from a young age, I needed someone to kind of be on my level and vice versa.
Yeah.
Because I know if I was in their shoes and I'm teaching a class or I'm giving a speech or I'm doing a presentation, which I was always very good at growing up, like if I could do a presentation rather than a test, sign me up.
Yes.
Even to this day, interviews, public speaking, you name it, I'm all about that because I know how to keep people engaged. I know if I was in their shoes, and that's the whole thing. Try to put yourself in other people's shoes. I think that's the key to many things in life, Try to understand your audience, because never the audience's fault. They always say, Jerry Seinfeld said once, he's like, if your joke bombs, it's not your audience's fault. It's the joke maker's fault.
Yeah.
You didn't know your audience, or you didn't think through that bit quite enough. Anyway.
So, how do we wrap this up?
Well, I think we should smoke a joint.
Do you want to wrap it up with smoking a joint?
In here?
No.
I can't. I don't want to smoke in here. But I think we're going to wrap this one up.
Yeah.
It's a quick one tonight, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's what we wanted.
It's a Tuesday night. Or is it Tuesday or Monday?
It's Tuesday night.
It's a Monday night. It's a Monday night. I thought it was a productive podcast.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of our 2-hour marathons.
I didn't want it to.
But look at the time, dude. Just when you, and then we'll actually shut it down after this topic. Yeah. But when you are in a flow conversation, or in a conversation where there's a state of flow because you're discussing something with someone that you find interesting, and you're discussing topics you enjoy. I mean, you and I have done it. Yeah. We did it with Aaron the other night. We've done it just walking around. 3 hours will go by. 4 hours will go by. And I think that's a testament to being interesting, but more so being interested. And I think it's a big deal.
I agree. And it's the flow is everything. Actually, it's funny that you say that word flow. Did you know that? So we spoke a lot about the injurious effects of ADD, of unmanaged ADD, which is short attention span, or it's not not, I wouldn't call it short attention span, easily distractible.
Okay.
But we also have this superpower ability of hyperfocus, and it's something that only neurodivergent types
can do.
Can exist. Yes. Okay. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
ability to hyperfocus on a single object for many hours. I'm talking 8-9 hour stretches. Wow. And it's because we can get into this position of flow where we're focusing on a task that is not too easy but not too hard. Right. So it's challenging and engaging at the same time. Yeah. And
you're surrendering to something that you actually intrigues you.
Have you and this could be a test for you. Now, have you ever experienced either playing a video game, reading a book, or something, and like 5 hours just flies by, and you don't even fucking know it, and you've made so much, like a superhuman amount of progress.
Yeah, I'll read 100 pages, and I'll be like, how did I read? Because I'll remember in elementary, middle school, and they would assign you a book that you just, those books some on the curriculum, you wanted to take them home and burn them. And those are the books where I'd be like, how the fuck am I going to read 100 pages? And I get through 7 pages and an hour would have gone by, and you're pushing so much against the current. Yeah. But when you're doing something that you actually want to do, that you elected to do on your own accord,
that's ADHD.
It's a big
honestly,
thing.
I'll go on podcasts saying this. I'm pretty sure you are neurodivergent. The fact is, since your dad is a neurodivergent type.
Yes, my dad is bipolar.
Yes. I didn't want to be the one to say that. So,
it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'm pretty sure my dad's bipolar.
Okay.
But he'll never get diagnosed. He's just one of those types.
Yeah.
But sorry, Dad. It's when one relative, and I think they like with parents, it's almost like 100%. So if one of your parents has a neurodivergency, the chance of you having a neurodivergency is 70%. It's more than 50%.
Okay, wow. Yeah, I mean, I will say, if it's my sister or me, it's me. She doesn't. I don't think my sister has any neurodivergency.
My twin brother,
very atypical, or not atypical.
Neurotypical
human being.
I have a twin brother.
Yeah.
And he's neurotypical.
There you go.
Like we have. If you ever meet us together, we have very different personality types, and he is able to sustain a normal level of focus. Where I can't, but he's also never experienced that flow state. He can leave a task, come back to it, leave a task, come back to it. Where me, it's either I'm going all the fucking way, or I'm leaving
it really at all.
Yeah, and I leave it unfinished.
Same.
If a book's not interesting, we fucking leave it. We can leave it unfinished for years.
If you don't have to read it for any reason and you don't want to, you have free will. Or
Absolutely.
to a certain extent, we have free will.
Yes.
That's a whole other podcast topic. That's a huge topic,
yeah.
which honestly we should write down because that's a really good topic. I like that topic.
Bookmark it. Free will?
It's good, yes.
We can talk about that
but
with
I'm
our next guest.
Sure, yeah.
Harrison.
That'd be a great
He would
discussion.
have a lot to say on that.
My thing is about the reading and the flow state is like when you read something you really love or you're doing something you really love, it's going to be much easier to be in that flow state. And if you're not doing it for any reason,
it also
it's good. It's good to know to put when you can put something down.
But yeah, it also has to do with the material you're reading. So there's if you're reading, like, because there's some books that are just really hard to get through, either because of the language that they're using, the topic that's being, like, if you're reading, because I know your educational background. So if you're reading, if I give you a textbook on quantum theory and general relativity for a scientist, which is, you would look at it, you would, and though the topics might be interesting for you, right? Because who wouldn't be?
But the medium that they're structured in,
would
be terrible.
Like, it would be so difficult that you would lose motivation.
Sure.
Whereas if I gave you a book by Neil deGrasse Tyson wrote a book on physics, and he said physics for the person that's in a rush, and it's a very easy read. He breaks down the language.
Right.
You would flow through it.
Sure, I'm sure
because the topic.
Imagine if that's how they.
But the presentation.
Imagine if that's what they assigned in courses other than textbooks that have been written in like the 1800s that are so outdated.
The education
and just continue to teach children ideas that are so antiquated.
I think
in the form of the ideas are antiquated. It's not even the material itself. Sometimes it's the way it's taught.
Let me give you my diagnosis on the education system.
Sure.
I think if we don't see a change in the next, like a massive change in the next 10 years, I think we're gonna notice just a decay in society, because technology and society is advancing at such a rapid pace that if we don't up our ability to educate, like properly, like truly educate, not teaching them what to think, but teaching them how to think.
Right.
We're gonna run, which we're already running into problems in society. In American society. American society is one of the most fucked up societies you can enter. Really, we have highest rates of divorce, highest rates of obesity and diabetes, highest rates of suicide, highest rates of depressions, highest rates of medications.
Yeah, we're all fucking ourselves.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this shit that we're listing off. Yeah. Highest rates in everything, highest rates of gun violence,
incarceration,
highest rates of per fucking. We have more people in jail than they have than
some countries have as civilians
as populations.
Right.
Yeah. Right. There are more people in America. So America has 330 million people, right? We have more people in prison in America than in China or India, and those populations are triple that of our population. So what are we doing here? And it all comes down. This is why it all gets traced back to education
and military industrial complex
and childhood development. Well, it's all connected.
Yeah, everything.
Everything. We need criminals because that's our slave labor.
It's crazy.
And there's and
it's really nuts.
And I have a cousin who spent a lot of time in the prison. Yeah, in prison. Yeah, he spent like half of his life. I want to bring him on this podcast. Yeah. It's a fact. The prisons are a specific type of demographic.
That reminds me, I'm gonna have my grandpa's cousin is a really, really cool person. She's an artist. She's older. Yeah. But I think she'd have a lot to say.
Everyone would have a lot to say. So
she's a good guest to have on. Yeah.
But it's all connected. The lack of successful education is leading to poor diet, poor health, poor mental health, which has consequences of high rates of sickness, high rates of incarceration, high rates of deviancy and negligence, and it's a system that, where do you see this going in 50 years? In 50 years, if we kept, because we weren't like this originally. America wasn't like the America we see today. I don't know when it happened. I don't know how it happened. I'm sure our viewers would have a lot to say on the subject as well. Like, comment, subscribe.
Slavery.
Yeah, but I don't know when it started, but I can see if it continues on the path that it's going.
It could be a mess.
It's going to be a mess.
It's already a mess.
Yeah, it's already a mess.
Yeah. All right, well.
But that
on that very positive note.
That being said, listen.
On that bombshell.
If you have ADHD, take cold showers. Take them in the morning. I promise you.
And have interesting professors.
I promise you it'll work. Your dopamine levels will go up. Your motivation goes up because if with ADHD, if you don't have motivation, you don't fucking do anything. There are some days where I'm unmotivated to.
Everyone's been there. Everyone's been there. Yeah. You don't even want to get the hell out of bed.
Yeah,
been there.
So,
all right, folks. This was great.
I don't know what happened here.
We're gonna. No, it's still recording. All right, I'm gonna wrap this one up. Grazie.
See you next week.
See ya.
Oh wait, for our next podcast,
Oh yes.
we have I just tried to bring a sort of he's a spiritual guide of mine, but he's more than that. He's a mentor. He doesn't like the word guru, but for lack of a better word, I have. He's a guru of mine. His name is Harrison Klein. He's worked with a lot of the bigger names in the like the personal development space. Like, I don't know if you've heard of Joe Dispenza, John DeMartini. Mm-hmm. He's worked with a lot of those guys. He's friends with a lot of those guys. In the thought leadership space, thought leaders, literally people who introduce thoughts to society, philosophers. He's gonna have great insights.
Which I hope one day we both can be there. Consider ourselves to be.
Yeah,
it's a great.
I really don't want the responsibility.
You don't want the responsibility of leading masses like
because
that.
He is like. Harrison's kind of the same, like him and I have that where we don't need to be. That's why you've never heard of him.
Right. Well, I wasn't saying like be someone who's so in the spotlight, but
yeah. Oh no, I would love to be the person, the guy, and I probably will be.
Yeah, you will. We already are.
Yeah, the guy, influencing the guy who's out on stage.
Right.
Because every one of those guys. Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard, whatever, those big guys, big personal, they themselves have a team of advisors and mentors and
the whole Megillah. All right, let's wrap it up. See you Wednesday.
Let's go smoke a joint.
Let's go. Oh shit! And there's the water. I knew it was gonna happen at some point.
I knew that was gonna happen. That's why I was like, we gotta get these bottles. All these. Did you record?
Oh, we did 45 minutes, so not the whole thing.
That's fine. I didn't want to.